Hello and welcome back to Reading the Peers, where we chat about and discuss all sorts of movies. My name is Gary O'Brien, and joining me to talk about the 2023 coming of age comedy drama Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. It's my very good friend Lili Nolan, so stick around. We hope you enjoy. Miss Nolan, hello. Are we well?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm also good.
Oh, good.
Any crack?
No, not much, I've been missing from the pod for a while, but I just thought
You're in the podcast studio today, though.
I am.
No lag.
In the podcast studio, in person. It almost feels like real life.
Did you bring the book?
Nope.
Oh, wow.
Nope.
That's big. That's a big moment for
book.
you.
I know.
You forgot it. Okay, that's different.
Well, actually, I made my copy of the book is from the 70s. It's my mom, so I was gonna bring it, and it's already quite damaged. And I was like, I'm not trekking that to.
That's fair. Just like
the studio.
just to, like Emma brought Dracula. So
yeah, Emma brought Dracula. She brought many versions of Dracula. I was
actually... No, she brought it to like the podcast studio.
I know. I thought you brought more than one version of the podcast studio. Well, I'm really letting myself down.
You are big time.
I'm gonna lose my.
As Miss Book Nolan.
I'm gonna lose my foothold in like movies based on books for the pod.
I told you could have a segment after it.
I know.
Call it Lili's League of Literature.
Yeah, brainstorm that on air.
Nolan's Novel Nexus. What's a group beginning with N? Is that a club?
I don't know. All I can think of is like normies, but that's not working. I feel like you need to put movies in there though. You can't just go
Lili's. I'll workshop this later.
Yeah.
Don't know why I put this on the podcast, but you're back. We're talking about a fantastic movie called Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. It's out in cinemas now. Came out last weekend. It was very good. I had a fun time with it.
Very good.
And in the meantime, when you're listening to this episode, I haven't done this before, so I don't know how to like weave it in naturally. But if you're listening to this on Spotify, there's a Q&A section on it. And if you have any comments, queries, things about the episode, stick them in there and we'll get to it.
Absolutely. About the movie, about the book, about other books.
About why Lili didn't bring the book to the thing today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to respond to that. I feel really called out.
Oh, he hasn't. But also give us 5 stars on Spotify if you're there as well. And make sure to follow us at Reading in the Peers on Instagram. Okay, but Lili, we're talking about this movie.
Yeah.
Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret, based on a book. Do you care to tell people what this book movie is about?
Yeah, sure. So it's basically a coming of age story. It's a little different from the usual ones we probably see. I think we see a lot of like teenagers coming into their own, but this is a young girl. She's 11, 12 in 6th grade, which is basically like our equivalent to 6th class for our Irish listeners. And she's grown up in New York with her parents and her grandmother. Her dad and his family are Jewish, and her mom and her family are Christian, I think. Not sure what denomination. Can't remember if that was even mentioned. And they move from New York to New Jersey. In the movie, it's because her dad's got a promotion and she kind of moves to the suburbs, and it's basically just about her, that kind of year of her life, being a kid and growing up, and how she gets on in school and how she gets on with like her life changing and basically hitting puberty as a little girl.
Yeah, and I guess...
I will add, it's set in the 70s.
Yeah. 70s, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Book came out in 1970, so I guess you can just say early 70s for the movie. They don't date it at any point. They do just say like the 70s, I think, on screen at the start. And
as weird as this sounds, hearing that, I'd be so not interested in this movie, I don't think. Like, it sounds fine. I feel like if I knew nothing about this, like, not even who directed or acted in it, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, seen it a million times, heard it before, yeah, like, whatever. But my God, like, this director and this cast are just a beautiful combination that I feel like, regardless of what the movie's even about, I just feel like the energy they bring to whatever they do, and that includes the director, whose name is Kelly Freeman Craig. Freeman? Freeman?
How many E's?
She from Dune? Freeman Craig, as the director, who also did a movie people might know called The Edge of 17. You've got Rachel McAdams, Kathy Bates, and a young actress by the name Abby Ryder Forster? Fortson. It's weird. I read all these things. I never say them out loud until I'm on a podcast. But yeah, those three, mixed with the director, make this an incredible movie. And like you say, with all those other stuff involved, it's actually just a very sweet and charming movie. Yeah,
and you're right. It kind of, you read about it and you're like, oh, it'll be one of those kind of, I don't want to disparage the genre, but like cushy family kid things. Yeah. But it really wasn't. I thought it was just really beautiful and it was really like heartwarming, but it was never very cheesy, I think.
Yeah, and I think it could kind of fall into the trap of being very, not like a PSA, but being like a, hey kids, we know what you're going through. Look at this on the big screen.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any of that. It just kind of shows, I think you said it a while ago, I can't remember, but it's like it just makes these moments very real and not as, what's the word? Not scripted, but not as sort of rehearsed, I suppose.
Yeah, and I find it's neither played too sickly sweet, but it's also not played for laughs, which isn't something you see. Like, normally you watch awkward teens or, you know, teenagers or kids that age, and it's kind of played for laughs. And it's like, oh, it's a misunderstanding, and isn't it funny that this happened? But it was really charming and sweet and, kind of just like a more of a love letter, I guess, maybe, to being that age and growing up. So what kind of helps with that is so Judy Blume wrote this, like I said, in the 70s. She wrote it for her daughter at the time.
What was her daughter's name?
I don't know.
Lili, I don't
so
think you
sorry.
did any prep for this whatsoever.
I don't know. She doesn't name it her daughter.
You don't know the name of the author's daughter? Disgraceful.
I'm not going to invade her privacy like that.
I
that
am.
would be rude.
Big time. I'm going to look for pictures of the kids and what type of blood they have.
Just in case.
Oh, negative. Cool. Sorry.
But yeah, so it's like, she wrote it for her daughter who is that age or who was that age at the time. She's in her 60s now. And she also kind of wrote it, she says, for herself. It's not autobiographical, but it kind of is, because it's quite a universal story.
Yeah.
Definitely for young girls. It's famous. Like, there's a lot of articles out about it again now, about like how everyone kind of sees himself in Margaret. So just a little more context for the listener. The title of the movie comes from the fact that Margaret asks God these questions all the time. She's not particularly religious, like she doesn't prescribe to either of her parents' religions, and she's actually trying to explore her own religion. She's like got this kind of personal relationship with a God. She talks to him a lot about everything that is on her mind, and it makes for a really lovely kind of narration, I think, as you go through it. So that part of the story, Judy Blume says, isn't really about her, but it is the sort of the rest of it, the growing up and making friends and making mistakes and being absolutely desperate to get her first period is all kind of like semi-autobiographical.
Which is funny, because that's the side I like most about this movie, rather than the God stuff, which I feel like maybe in the 70s is a bit more of a hot topic and probably more like...
Well, you know, the book was banned.
Is it still banned?
In different places, yes, but...
I think Florida just banned
everything.
Yeah.
So what I think is extra interesting about that is that it's a book. The book is what's called like a mid-grade level. I should have brought it. Oh my God, if only I'd brought it, I could demonstrate this to you.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never even seen a book in my life.
But like when
is
you
it like
read
the Dracula book Emma brought?
It's actually so not like the Dracula book that Emma brought. Because it's like, you know, it's like really big text and short chapters. I read the book in an hour because I reread it recently for the podcast. I'm that committed. Just not committed enough to carry it around. No. It's mid-grade level, so it's quite easy to read. It's very much directed at a young reader. It's not like reading, like, even at the time, let's say, so when we were 12, 11, the 6th and 7th Harry Potter came out. I don't know if you read them. I read them. That's like a completely different level of book than the kind of language that's used in it. It's very, I don't want to say simplistic, because I think that doesn't do it justice, but it is. It's accessible. For young girls. Yeah, it's really accessible. For kids a little... They would say like a middle school or mid-grade is what it's called. So it's like 10 to 12 kind of kids are meant to be reading it, and that's who it's written for. So it's wild that they have banned it. Like it's like when they banned like kids' books and picture books because they talk about things. But it's so it's both banned for obviously the religious discussion, and at one point, not to get into spoilers, but there's a lot of talk about like religion and her own revelations about God in it, and that's almost identical to the book.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's banned for that, but it's also just banned for talking about...
boobs.
And being a little girl, and it's absolutely crazy.
Just any little girls, like, they're just like, nah, ban it. Those don't exist.
Pretty much, yeah.
Not the issues they go through, just the fact there's a little girl in it, I think is scary.
Yeah. To this day, Judy Blume is active on the this like council in America that tries to work against the banning of books. But she's just like, it's ridiculous.
She's 85 now.
Yeah.
There you go. And she's got 2 daughters.
Oh, thank you, Gary.
So I just want to bring this back. I think it's very important. Now, I would say, this is quite harsh, I think, because it's just like, she has, oh no, wait, no, because she's married 3 times, but one daughter is from, it's like her stepdaughter, and her name is Amanda, and then it goes, to whom Bloom is very close. Like, who put that in? Amanda or Judy? Who knows? But her first daughter is called Randy Lee.
Aw.
And I could see maybe why you changed the name to Margaret. There, God, it's me, Randy.
It's very middle American,
Yes,
that
there
name
you
as
go.
well.
But I think the biggest thing I got from this as well, it's like you kind of spoke there a bit about like being so accessible and such a nice read for young girls, but I also think for like young lads as well, just because I don't know, I think there's a lot of parallels to like how kids maybe not overexcite, but overhype something in their head as something exciting when it comes to puberty and such. But also, I think it also has those nice elements that like young boys it'd be good to be aware of, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a good watch for everyone.
And I think it's that kind of thing, not to date the podcast, but I don't know if you saw the BAFTAs recently, and Lisa McGee won her award for Derry Girls, and as she said, and I'm only giving that background because I'm about to steal her quote directly, like in the specific, there's the universal. So like in every very specific story of one girl, almost everyone can see themselves, even the boys, because you know she's interacting with them and they're in the story, and it's kind of the same like thoughts and feelings that happens for everyone, I guess.
But yeah, no, I just thought that was an interesting point as well, because I see it a little bit of myself in Margaret or Randy Lee.
I have a question. Did you go to a mixed primary school?
No.
Boys?
Do you want to know something really fun? I did not share a classroom with a woman or girl until I was in college.
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
No, it's bad.
Oh my God. Until that physics lab.
Until, technically no, but
yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's very fucked.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There was no...
That's so funny, because like if you think of like, we met obviously in our first year of college in
Lili's
the lab.
the first woman I've ever seen.
So I just find that wild.
There you go.
Not even like primary school as well is rare.
No.
It's more rare here in Ireland.
I tell a lie. I went to preschool with
No,
like,
no, it doesn't
yeah,
count.
exactly, yeah. So no, so I didn't really, we did have like teachers who would be like, hey, if any of your friends that are girls or girlfriends all of a sudden need to disappear for a while, or they're, you know, covering up the skirt, like all those kind of like things of like being precautionary in a way.
Which is incredibly progressive in a very upsetting way that it shouldn't be. Like, there's a lot of times they just wouldn't even talk about it.
Oh, yeah. No, so like, I also went to a Catholic-run secondary school, so they couldn't talk about contraception.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, couldn't they not?
That's not really a thing here, but
no, there was
they can choose
something.
not to.
There was something about that. Or
Do you
maybe
want to know something that's really funny? I went to a mixed school my whole life, and because I happened to be in top tier maths, they had to take...
Oh, yeah, throw that one in.
Oh, yeah, they had to take some of our maths classes because we had 8 a week. They had to dedicate one for 4 weeks to just like general sex ed, and everyone was like, that's ridiculous. We're not doing that. We don't need that. Back to the sons.
Yeah, there you go. We went wildly off on a tangent there, but it could be important as we go down the line.
My point was going to be, you never went to a mixed school, but you're still finding like the comparisons in your own experience in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. It wasn't so far off topic. I wasn't just throwing
No.
that
It's just now people on the internet know too much about my education.
Yeah.
But yeah. So look, I know we've been talking about the movie. We haven't really gotten into it, but I guess this was just the point where I wanted to say, if you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend it. I did not go to the cinema to watch it because my beautiful friends at Lionsgate, who are my favourite people in the world, actually sent me the movie early and to review, and my review went up on Instagram. Like I said, you can follow at Reading and the Peers on Instagram. My reviews go up there. But I
saw it early too, as an Omnipass Gold member.
Yeah.
They did a preview screening, I think, just not nearly as early as you.
Just
like
anyone
a few
who's in
days
top tier
before.
maths got to go.
Yeah.
And if they
just
brought
me
their
and
own
John.
copy of the book.
Fellow podcaster John, top tier maths in the same school.
John did top tier maths.
Yeah, John and I were in the same maths class.
He doesn't show it.
Poor John.
No. Sorry, John.
At least I think he was. Unless I really
know.
No, he was. He
Okay.
sat behind me.
There you go. We got a lot of smart people on the podcast. Anyway, but the point I was trying to get at there...
Yeah, and the point I was trying to make is that...
I started my point first!
I'll go first.
I just wanted to say, I watched this at home, and usually watching movies at home is sometimes a bit of a detriment because you get easier to distractions, you can pause it. I did not pause this once. I did not get distracted, and I still think I'm right in saying this. There's a part of this movie, there's a point in this movie where I laughed, I think the loudest I've ever laughed watching a movie at home. And that's such a hard thing to do, I find, because when you're at home, you're not really like surrounded by other people laughing or whatever. I let out such a big fucking laugh during one of the scenes in this movie. The listener can try and guess what it is.
Well, I saw it in the cinema, like I said, at that preview screening. So like it wasn't packed or anything, but there was a lot of people who were obviously really interested in seeing it who decided to go. And I was in the screening with like a lot of people my age, but also a lot of maybe like older women, kind of my mum's age, a little bit younger, who obviously would have had read the book as a kid, and they were having the best time. And it made for such a lovely screening experience, you know, being like surrounded by people who like recognize what's going on in the movie, who really care about it and love it, and kind of hearing them enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of critics have said the same thing, like, because obviously it means a lot to a lot of people, and a lot of reviewers have gone and seen it and been like really passionate about it and just given it great reviews. The only not so good review of it I've seen was written by, I think, the man from the Telegraph. So maybe we should boycott the Telegraph.
What's the name?
I don't want to get the paper wrong. Maybe it's not even the Telegraph.
Ooh, yeah.
Maybe it's the Guardian. I don't know. Some guy gave it 3 stars, and that's the worst review I've seen of it.
Yeah,
and everything
even
else
still,
has been
yeah.
like 4, 4.5.
And
5.
you know, I could kind of see why you'd not like it. Yeah, I could see, like, if you were in a weird mindset about it, you could see it as a bit of a fluff piece in a way, but it's so not. That's the only thing I could take away from it. And also, like I said, I think the religions thing kind of derails it, but that's actually just a key part of the movie, so they can't get rid of that.
God damn it. They just changed the title to being like Dear Diary.
Yo,
It's me, Margaret.
it's me, Mags. You know what I mean? Make it more accessible to kids.
Although I would say, actually, it's unlike the book, which is definitely geared towards young kids. I feel like it's maybe not quite geared towards kids in that way.
Kind of it does a very good job of, like, because you have the relationship of the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter, you kind of are able to see yourselves at one point in that
it's a little
sort of
more
scale.
reflective. Like, I feel like maybe like 15 and older would probably enjoy it. I also just feel like if you saw it at that age, you would just be mortified to be in that cinema, because it's so realistic. So you know, you're sitting there and you're like, it's way too
real,
too real for you at that age to like share it with your mom or something. You're like, God, no way.
I think watching it with I don't know.
But also they expanded the role from the book for the mom, for Rachel McAdams.
So.
And I think that was really lovely. They did a really good job of it. And there's actually very few other differences from the book. Like, very few, apart from the fact that all the family, that whole scene at the end with all the families, a little different.
All right,
it's still similar.
Because that's where I didn't like it. So
Similar outcomes. So maybe Judy Blume was right.
I think so. You got my support, Judy.
Actually, one thing that is probably really important we talk about is the cast. Because normally kids can be really annoying in movies.
Well, do we want to just save this point to be like, people go fuck off and go watch this movie, and then now we kind of talk spoilerish now.
Okay.
And we can get into the cast then, because people have enough information by
Well,
now.
the cast are excellent.
The cast are excellent, that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
And we'll get it, and if you go watch the movie, then you deserve to listen to us talk about the cast.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and are you back? I hope you paused it and come back to this moment, but if you haven't...
No, don't pause it. Finish the movie, and then I'll pause the podcast.
Come back, get those 2 downloads in. Love it, see it. But yeah, so we're talking about... I just wanted a point where I could tell people to go fuck off. And the cast are excellent. Although, my biggest thing is, what's Rachel McAdams doing married to Benny Safdie? What's she doing?
I love that she was married to Benny Safdie. The whole time I was like, who is this man and why do I know him?
I don't get it.
She's his muse.
He must just have a good personality then. I don't get it. She looks amazing in this movie. How is she a mother, first of all?
I just also love that it's Rachel McAdams who has been has had
been the
iconic
mean girl.
but she's just had iconic, like, roles in movies that women tend to love. She's been the girl in The Notebook. She was the mean girl. I know you hate The Notebook.
I fucking hate The Notebook.
So it's like she's kind of like done all those stages of life as well with everyone. So that's cool.
And yeah, Kathy Bates, I think, plays a very warming role. And yeah, I don't know. I there's just so many to get into.
Judy Blume herself is a little cameo.
She's in it. But yeah, I think what better thing to probably start the maybe more in-depth, I suppose, analysis or whatever we like to call it, discussion, talking, than Abby. Good old Abby. I just... Fortson? I forget. I'm so bad with names. Abby Ryder Fortson playing Margaret. Like you say, kids can be so annoying in movies. And especially a kid who is kind of not whinging, but like she's kind of complaining about things more often than not with God, whatever. But the fact that it's just... I don't know, you just you feel like she's talking to you and you're just like taking in her problems and trying to nearly reach out to the screen and help her. And I think that's just played... That's brought about by just how kind of a person she is, and just how, like, not clueless, I don't like to say, but just how innocent, I suppose. And
a little
she's been
naive.
moved to a different school. She doesn't know anyone. Her mother's sacrificed her job for this, and her dad's being a loser. And no, he's fine.
He can't even mow the lawn.
He can't even mow the lawn. I can't say that.
No. Just can't believe he can't even mow the lawn.
Can't even mow the lawn.
They have to get that kid to do it.
Rachel McAdams needed a mow lawn, I'd be there in a heartbeat. Anyway,
and you'd read all the instructions. I'd wouldn't mess up.
I just can't. What's she doing with him? Sorry, this wildly off tangent. But yes,
Betty Safdie hatred in the corner.
it's nothing against Betty Safdie. Just go about your business. Just don't be married to Rachel McAdams. That's all I ask. Anyway, the point I'm getting at here is, no, Abby Ryder Fortson is great. She's in Ant-Man movies.
Yeah, she's the young version of the daughter. Yeah. She comes from a movie industry kind of family. Her mom's an actress. I know her from like.
Oh, what's her name and blood type?
God, she's got a younger brother, I think. Her dad's a director. He does a lot of like horror stuff. Her mom wouldn't really be in anything I think that people know, but she's got like a long sort of working actor career. She's done like a few guest spots. I know her. If anyone watched Bones, she was Howard Epps' wife for a few episodes.
There you go. For a few episodes. Did she become Bones then? Did she die?
She did, yeah. She did.
Oh,
she became Bones.
Oh, she's
very
in
sad.
2 episodes of Malcolm in the Middle.
See, she's done loads of little things like that.
She's in Dexter, a soccer mom.
And she's been working consistently, but she's never really been like, you know, had her own TV show kind of actress.
Yeah, kind of like she's just doing like she's in an episode of Grey's Anatomy. She's just, yeah.
2 episodes of 90210.
There you go. 1 episode it says here.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I
Brooke
misremembered.
Templeton. Tangent. But
yeah, sorry. So
her
the point is
daughter's
she comes from an acting family, so I guess she probably has that experience, because sometimes that's the problem with kids. Is they are just kids. They don't really know how to be amazing dramatic actors.
Yeah.
But I thought she did a really good job. And as well as that, the other kids
the
great.
main mean kid.
Yeah.
The blonde girl. I should get her name now. She is a Catherine Kupferer. What is with these horrible names? What kind of name is Safdie?
Poor Benny Safdie. It's this new generation where they're double barreling all their surnames, so we just have to say...
No, that's one name. Kupferer. I think she plays Gretchen Potter. I think Gretchen's the main kid, isn't it?
No, you're... No. Nancy.
Nancy. Who plays Nancy?
Yeah, so when Margaret moves to New Jersey, she meets her neighbour, Nancy, who's another little girl the same age as her, in her class. And she joins Nancy's kind of like girl club in school. And I think the other 2 girls are Gretchen and...
Other girl.
No, get her name.
Janie,
Janie,
Gretchen, and then Moose is the boy.
Yes, Moose is the boy Margaret has a crush on.
Yes.
Who's Nancy's older brother's friend, so that's kind of how they're all related. Yeah, so they form a little girl club, and they've got rules, and they have notebooks where they write down all the boys they like, and they have to do exercises to grow their boobs.
That's fantastic.
It's so good.
And
the there's rules like they can't wear socks, Gary. They're not allowed to wear socks.
No socks.
But they all have to wear a bra.
Yeah.
It's,
regardless of any developments.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
Very strict club.
I spent so much of this movie just thinking how much had changed from the book. Because I was like, so they have this whole chant where they go, we must
famous.
What's it? We must increase our bust?
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way that's in a book from 1970. And then when I found out it was, I was like, I'd ban that book in a heartbeat. No. But I was just like,
You're
wow.
leading the charge.
But like, it's that's what I mean. It's so funny and so relevant to this day. And like,
it's also so real. Like,
that's
it's something
what I mean.
that like little kids would do. And I love, the one thing they did change, they didn't give the group a name in the movie, but in the book they call themselves the preteen sensations, the PTSs. Yeah. Which
PTSs.
is preteen sensations.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's very cute. And they all have to report back. So that's the final rule, of course, that they all have to tell each other, you know, when they get their period, when anything changes. But they're growing up, but they are very much still kids. And I really like that, because sometimes, especially from books to movies, they kind of sanitize it a little bit, or they age up the kids.
Yeah.
They have like teenagers play them, or even just like 14-year-olds play them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work because
or
they're
like
11.
in the example of Greece, you could be a 37-year-old woman playing a 16-year-old.
Exactly. Just regular things.
I think they should have got John Travolta to play Moose. Anyway, I'll cut you grass. Anyway, so there's there's that scene, like I said, with we must increase our bus scene, which I love, and then there's also the scene where I think Gretchen gets her period, and she's telling all the other girls about it, and how it's like she's like, I just feel, she says something else, I just feel like a woman now.
I just feel so grown up.
It's just
so cute.
That's great. The scene where they all get the dad's
the anatomy book.
The anatomy book.
Yeah. And the Playboy. Again, both those in the book. Maybe it should be banned.
I think so. And then what did she say? She goes, oh, it just looks like a thumb when she's talking about the dick. It's just stuff like that. It just... how the movie handles those sort of, not conversations, but I guess those revelations in childhood when you... something that you you're not too sure what it is, and then when you're faced with the reality, you're like, oh, this is either not good or not as great as it, or not as interesting as it seemed. Whether that be seeing a dick for the first time or actually having your period.
And I love the little girl who's like, I'm never ever going to be naked ever, even when I'm married. And it just, there's so many like little things that really remind you of their age, and it's so refreshing compared to like, I guess what, less relevant to the generation the books for, but for us, like we grew up with Nickelodeon and Disney Channel and stuff, and it was always a very, like I said, sanitized version of being young. Even when they were showing things like heartbreak or friendship issues, you never got to see this side of it, which makes it so much more real, like you said.
Yeah. And I guess, and there was 2 other scenes I loved as well. I'm just gonna talk about scenes I
Oh
loved,
yeah, let's go
because
for it.
that's like, we could go through the story, but the story, there's no real story other than,
That's it. There's also no real spoilers because it's just a movie where a little girl.
and that's why I don't want to ruin the
grows up.
jokes. That's why. But like, so if you're here, I assume you've seen it, so I'll try not to give too much explanation for some things. But there's 2 great scenes. One is the 2 other great scenes. Sorry, one is when she's getting the bra for the first time.
Yeah.
And then she has to get what's it called, the grow bra.
Grow bra, yeah.
And it's just like, and then like, because that's another rule.
That's
in
why
the-
I'm like, a kid couldn't see this with anyone. Because you'd have experienced that so recently that you'd just be like, the secondhand embarrassment for poor Margaret is just too real.
Yeah, because she said, because all the girls have to wear a bra to be
They
part of the
have
club,
to.
regardless of, like I said, any developments or lack thereof. And the second scene I loved as well was when they were buying the tampons or pads for probably pads, I assume, for the first time, and then like that sheer dread of like, oh, don't worry, it's a nice old lady at the till, and then it switches over to a dude, and they're just like, no,
like some like teenage guy whose job it is, and they're just like, well, we can't do it now.
Was there any, I suppose, I know I've kind of outlined the main ones, but I should have to tell your personal secrets on the podcast. But was there any other moments that you were just like, oh, that's great? Because, like I said, I probably only picked up on maybe the more overt ones, but I guess was there anything a bit more below the surface that I might not picked up on?
There's one really sticking out in my mind, but it's from the book, so I'm going to leave that one. I won't like, sorry, I read the book so recently. Yeah. What I will say is the very first time I went to read the book, because my mom gave it to me when I was little, I couldn't read it. I felt like I shouldn't be reading it. I was about that age.
You just didn't know how to read.
Of course, I didn't. I was like, this isn't Harry Potter. What am I doing?
Yeah. There's no wizards in this.
I was like, it was way too real, and I'd never read a book like that. So it's not even like that much has changed from the 70s. Yeah. So when I was it was like 2006 or something when I was that age. And it was still the same thing where I was like, no one writes about this. We shouldn't be reading about this. Yeah. And I couldn't read it. I had to put it down. And it gives me, I would describe it, it's kind of like reading normal people when you're in your early 20s and you're in Trinity, where you're like, who is reading my diary and writing it and letting me read theirs? Like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
The scene I did love was the party scene. So when they're going to...
yes.
Yeah, so... and the teacher scene. I'll do the teacher scene first because that's a little shorter. I just loved, like, Margaret's quite smart, but she doesn't want to be seen as that. So her teacher wants to talk to her and she's just terrified. And I just loved her little, like, I'm not sure who I am kind of moments there. I thought that really added to her character. But to get into way more detail, the party scene. So they have a boy in their class. It's his birthday. And they are all invited to his birthday party. I don't think so. You're thinking... So there's a boy in their class that the girls are all obsessed with.
Yeah. The fucking dweeb. Like, I know he's the cool kid, but I was like, you've peaked far too soon, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you're walking around like you run the joint. Just you wait. I don't condone kicking children. I know, but if you could kick the character of a child, this kid,
and you know what?
Line him up.
After watching the whole movie, he kind of deserves it. He would deserve to.
Bad?
It was really rude to Margaret then.
Okay. What, when he kissed her?
Afterwards when he was really mean to her in class then.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
He made fun of her for not having any boobs then after that, and he'd already kissed her twice, so she was just devastated. But so they're all going to this boy-girl party for another boy in their class.
My day was just boy parties.
And I just love all the different clips of the girls getting ready and their kind of their different experiences with their moms, which was really sweet.
I'd say that was great. Yeah. I'd say that was great. Like I could tell what it was doing, but I was like, I've never had that experience.
When they're all like putting on their best dress.
Their mom trying to take pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And the girl like posing, her mom trying to take pictures, and she's just like, oh, mom, okay, fine, like striking the hip pose. It made me think though. I went and I had a look. I was like, are there any pictures of me aged 11 and 12, which are obviously the worst years for being a child. There's very few, but I found some and they made me laugh.
Speaking of Benny Safdie, sorry, the character, like you said, they kind of what's the word? Sort of fleshed out their side of the story quite a lot, and I loved the Rachel McAdams, because again, if people don't resonate too much with maybe the daughter element of things, maybe it's a long time ago. I think that mother trying to fit into that sort of school community and mam's club thing, I think is probably, this movie's very potent for it as well.
Yeah, I love that you got that across the three generations. So you've got the grandma who's kind of like, her family have just moved, and she's kind of missing them, obviously, in their life. She was quite close with them, spent a lot of time with them. She's got to now find kind of her own place a little bit, which she does.
Yeah.
And then you got the mom, like you said, she's been working, and she's obviously felt very guilty about that, especially in the 70s, would have been way less common, I guess, to be a working mom.
Well, yeah. Probably not in New York. I feel like everyone works in New York.
That's true. So that's why they moved to New Jersey.
Yeah.
And she's kind of trying to find out who she is a little bit now that she kind of has the chance to. And they very much mirror each other, all three of them, which is really lovely.
And I think for me, with the Rachel McAdams things, I think Rachel McAdams is incredible in this. I think she is, like, I'm amazed she hasn't been snapped up by any sort of...
The other Safdie.
The other Safdie, yeah. I'm surprised those Safdies haven't got their hooks into her yet. No, I just mean, like, some of those big directors. I don't know, like a Spielberg or Thomas Anderson, a fucking Fincher. Like, I'm just surprised she's not in big, maybe Oscar-y movies is the wrong way, but like drama movies. Because I think, I don't know, I know this is a bit more of a comedy, but just the warmth and the kindness, but also the dramatic scenes that she's able to handle with ease in this movie. And I think also the relationship she has with her mother in this, with Benny Safdie in this, and with her daughter in this, is just like, it's just so fucking good. And I'm just like, how is she not in a big movie? Unless you're going to tell me she's in a big movie now.
I mean, she's in the Doctor Stranges.
Those do not count.
Yeah.
But like, I get that, like, but like, what is she in that? What's the name of her character? Exactly.
Oh, I don't know.
Exactly.
That's really sad.
But that's what I mean.
What is the name of her character?
Jane.
Dr. Christine Palmer.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, you're right. She was having a lot of success for a while.
But see, that's in those like drama
she loves a rom-com, yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what she's casted. But I feel
About
like
Time. God, I love that movie. Yeah.
No, I don't like that movie.
But she's great in it.
She's great. She's great in it. But I have a big problem with that movie.
Yeah, I know.
That Donald Gleason. No, I love Donald Gleason.
Yeah, you're right though. She doesn't.
That's what I mean. I just feel like this is a movie where I could see in a worser year, I could see her getting nominated for Best Supporting Actress in this. I don't think this is like Oscar worthy. Well, Best Adapted Screenplay.
Yeah,
maybe.
Best Adapted. Hey, fun fact about the screenplay. So people have been trying to get the rights to this book for years.
I saw. It's hilarious. I love Judy Blume for this.
Yeah, and Judy Blume wouldn't give it to any of them. She was never going to give it to a studio, but she picked, obviously, the writer and director for this because she loved Edge of 17 and she trusted her with it.
Great movie as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? It was 49 years since the publication, and then she sold the film rights to James L. Brooks and Kelly Fremon Craig, who worked together on, like you say, The Edge of 17, and then Craig was set to write and direct, and then there was a studio bidding war for it as well. She hasn't allowed in many other adaptations of her books. I think it's only like a handful of like TV movies and a series and such.
Well, she loves her life, if that makes sense. She purposely I read a great article about it.
That's it, sorry. It just says like she would be killed if she did a media adaptation.
She's like,
let's just say she likes to hold on to her life.
I'm directly threatening her. No, so
hey,
she spent years
only
writing.
One person threatens celebrities on this podcast is me.
She spent years writing books, obviously. And then as an adult now, she moved to Key West in Florida, and she just enjoys hosting. Like, she owns a bookshop, and her current husband owns an indie cinema. And she works in the bookshop. She loves being out and about. She hosts all these writers, like saloons, you'd call them, or salons, I don't know. Writers groups and hangouts for young female writers.
Oh, cool.
So, like, she's really good friends with Meg Cabot, who wrote The Princess Diaries. She was that author.
That's a book?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Really big book series.
A book series?
Yeah, like 12 books.
What?
Like that. And Meg Cabot wrote that series famously from like Mia being 16 all the way up to her like being an adult, which is very cool. But that's beside the point. And yeah, so she kind of likes to nurture writers, and she said she never wanted to go and really sit back behind a desk that much. And I think that's probably part of why she doesn't adapt movies. So she wanted to she did a little bit of this and she was on set. Not all the time, but I think she had a great time with it. But if she used to do that with her entire back catalogue, to have that kind of control over it, she'd just be spending her life working again. Yeah. So
no, that's fair.
And she apparently loves like because she's in Key West in Florida, so cruise ship's dock, and she loves like going out to meet everyone and selling the books, and
She just sounds like such a wholesome woman.
she is a wholesome woman. We are good friends, and I'm
I was
not
just about to
threatening her
say.
life even a little bit, okay?
She is a good woman. Shame what's coming her way. But yeah, what else about this movie is great? Any other points?
But you mentioned Edge of 17,
I
and
did.
the
What a movie.
obviously writer-director for that is the same as this. They're the only two movies she's directed, I think. It's such a good movie, like we said. It's another kind of coming of age, but for a much older girl, and it has that similar characteristic of capturing that kind of like awkward teenage years, but
Yeah.
with that kind of compassion and
Realism and just
exactly.
like, yeah.
But often you just never get those kind of experiences really played for realism. They're either played for drama, like really intense drama, or really like cheesy, or for laughs.
Yeah,
And they're always played for laughs because it feels like the safest way to kind of talk about those emotional things.
Yeah.
And I love that in her movies it's just like, not that she gives it to you straight, because she still gives it to you with like kindness, but it is it's different than what you normally see when you watch these kind of movies. I guess we're kind of missing maybe one of the biggest scenes if we want to talk about it, or do you want to save
Yeah, let's get into that.
the bit you hate? Well, do you want to share your favourite scene?
My favourite scene is
The
when
funniest scene.
Gretchen gets her period and then it's a hard cut to Margaret praying. She's like, Jesus Christ, God, you better fuck out. I've never wanted anything more in my life, please. Oh my God, I just bust my ass laughing.
Yeah, that is good. It's very much, you haven't seen Heather's, but it has big Heather's energy of when Veronica storms up to her room, puts on the monocle and is at the typewriter and like ripping the pages off. It has,
All right.
Yeah.
It's on the list, I'll get to it.
but it feels almost eerily like echoing that scene, and I think one of the writers worked on Heather's before, so.
Oh, there you go. But yes, the big scene, the big conflict of the movie.
Yeah, so our good friend Margaret, she's talking to God all the time, but she's not any religion. And her lovely new teacher, whose first year it is teaching, he decides to set his class a project, a personal interest project. Did you do those in school?
Personal interest projects?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
God, you're gonna have to think back to those times, Gary. We had to do them in school from third class up.
Every year?
I did.
I don't think I did that.
I actually did one on a series of unfortunate events. Remember we covered that on my last podcast.
We just said which boy is the strongest, and we just fought in a big pit every year.
Is that what all boys schools
They
are
do!
like?
Big pit fights all the time.
We played a lot of chess.
Tell you, I could beat in a pit fight. Judy Bloom.
No way. No way could you beat Judy
No.
Bloom in a pit fight.
She'd cut me to my core with harsh words more than a punch could
And
ever
you know,
do.
she's always out on that bike, Gary. Like, she just...
That's true,
she'd,
yeah.
She'd get you.
Sorry, go ahead.
But sorry. So her class are set a personal interest project, and she decides to do hers on religion. She's finally going to pick a religion. She has decided she is an adult. The whole thing was her parents were never going to make her pick until she was an adult. They were going to let her decide. And she's like, well, obviously, at 12 years old, I'm an adult.
Yeah.
So it's time for me to decide.
There's a lot of conversations like that in this movie where I'm just like, just you wait.
And she decides to do that. So she goes to different church services. She goes to temple with her Jewish grandmother. She goes to a few different kind of, I guess, Christian
of denominations,
denominations. Yeah, with her friends.
My
in
favourite
school.
one is the one that has the gospel choir
Yes.
in it. And I just feel like Irish churches could do a lot more effort to incorporate those in them. Sorry.
Yeah, so she goes to those, and then the whole... She's very close with her Jewish grandmother, but she doesn't know her mom's parents. They're like estranged from them because they basically cut her off when she decided to marry out of their faith. And she's like never spoken to them again. Margaret's never met them. She's no relationship to them. They're very like conservative Christians.
Yeah. The fun kind.
Yeah, the fun kind.
The one that are like, let's ban a book that mentions boobs.
That's why they were like, this is a rude portrayal of us.
This is a little girl and it's burn it!
No, they're just like, rude of you to talk about us like this. And they ban them.
But also, just...
But also girls,
A perfect example.
no way.
No, but whilst giving a perfect example of why you're like this.
Yeah.
So
They through a series of events, they do end up coming to visit. Margaret is devastated because she's not allowed to go to Florida anymore. Really a hard time. I really felt her disappointment in that scene. It was really upsetting. But then her mum's parents come. But she's got lovely, loving parents, and Margaret's a lovely kid, so she is trying to do her best for her mom. She's a bit awkward because she doesn't know these people, but she knows how hard it is for her mom.
Yeah.
There was a really nice scene about that earlier on where she just like couldn't believe that this had happened.
Yes.
That her mum's parents wouldn't want to speak to her. She just like couldn't fathom that at all.
Yeah.
So she finds the interaction with her other grandparents very difficult. And then her grandmother comes back from Florida because she knows they're coming with her new boyfriend, Mr. Pinnaman?
That sounds right.
Sounds like cinnamon.
Let's call him Philip Leroy for now.
And they all go and they just have like this sort of nice evening, but then they have like this big confrontation about religion at the end, and Margaret has to do her school project after that, and it's just this really heartfelt, upsetting letter about how she doesn't understand her place in the world because of this, and she's not really sure what to do. Early on in the movie, she says that one of the things she dislikes the most is religious holidays because of obviously the connotations for her family. And yeah, I just thought it was a really good scene. It's not in the book. Judy Blume said she didn't know how to... Oh, it happens separately. The grandmother arrives late.
Okay.
She said she didn't know how to play that conflict out in the book without making it too much. But I guess because the movie's a little older, or for a little older audience, they do that, and it works quite well. And it's just,
Yeah, that's where the movie lost me.
Okay.
I felt like, just because, I don't know, because not to divulge too much about myself on one podcast, but I'm not a very religious person.
Yeah.
So I kind of spent the whole time like, I just felt like I understand the way the movie's set up, where it's just like, it's like a hot button topic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sort of an issue that's been bubbling and boiling amongst all these 4 individuals for like so long, and so like 5 individuals, that like when it all comes out, like of course, like that's how family arguments sometimes happen, where it's like here's something I didn't say that I felt a while ago kind of thing. But it just felt so out of proportion for the rest of the movie. I was just like, whoa, calm down here, guys. Everyone's screaming and shouting over nothing. I was like, this is all not stupid. I don't know. I think I was having such a good time.
Yeah.
And I understand that's the point. I'm not saying it's bad about the movie. I'm just saying, for me, it just like lowered it to a gear that I was never able to like end the movie on a high. And then, like you say, there's that sort of project, which is a bit of a downer as well. But like by the end of the movie, it's all kind of like happy and go lucky, and it all sort of all.
For me, it's really nice because I think it's like a scene where Margaret kind of has to accept that she's not really an adult. She has to be like, oh God, there's just so much stuff. And actually...
Maybe I'm not an adult.
Yeah, no, maybe you're not.
I couldn't handle it.
I'm not from a particularly religious background either. I am from a family with 2 different religions by extension.
And you're notorious for saying which one's better than the other.
yeah. I'm always going around being like, well, that one is crap.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact that neither of my parents are religious.
Yes.
So I feel very much like Margaret in this instance. But yeah, so... I get that you kind of lost... I understand exactly why it felt like it came out of nowhere, but I kind of love that because it was like... Just this moment where she was like, oh God, there's actually so much going on in the world and it's terrifying, and I like, they all just need to leave me alone.
Yeah. That's how I feel. Also, Margaret...
you're always storming up to your room onto your typewriter.
You joke.
I'm not joking.
Margaret, until you're paying full fares on the Lewis, calm down. That's what I say.
Yeah, €2
to use that
minutes.
student travel card or leap card. But yeah, no, look, I get it. I did like it, but like I said, it was just a weird turn for me in the movie that I just never came back from.
Well, it does also come on the heels of Margaret. There's a girl in their class who's like always looks a bit older, and Margaret.
I loved all that stuff.
Oh, so good. Margaret has this like moment where she has to work with the girl, and she's really annoyed at her, and she can't believe the girl is so lucky to have everything that Margaret wants.
Because the girl, what's her name?
Laura.
Nancy had said like, oh, she's kissing all the boys. She's kissing Moose.
Yeah. And she's like the most developed girl in their class. And Nancy lies about getting her period, and Margaret is cross already. And then like Philip is mean to her, and she's just, there's so much happening in her world, and she's so upset. And then she lashes out at poor Laura, who is having a really hard time herself, and Margaret just never even stopped to consider that, and she just can't believe that about herself.
Yeah.
And then all this stuff happens with her family, and just feels like she just feels like so overwhelmed by it all. I kind of like that it was just mirrored slightly from her own childhood
because she
problems.
meets her in a church then, and then she's kind of like, oh wait, turns out people with this faith can be quite nice, rather than. Oh, I think she was more like Jesus Christ, like, not Jesus Christ. I think she was more like, she was like, I was so set on the Judaism because they were so nice, and now Catholics are so nice to us. She's like, who do I choose? I think that was the vibe of the scene towards the end, wasn't it? Where it was kind of like
well, she was
turning on religion. She was like,
well, she just couldn't. Like, I guess she just felt like such a terrible person because she immediately sees Laura leave confession, and she's like, I just have so much to confess because I must just be the worst person in the world. And then everyone comes along, and then her parents take something away from her, and she feels really the Florida trip, and she feels really conflicted about like because she's mad at herself about how she can't believe that she hurt Laura, but also she's like no wait, but this is an injustice too. And it's such a like a teenage thing, not even a teenage, like a preteen thing, to just not even be able to, like, she's not even able to process what's going on. It results in this big blow up at all her grandparents.
Yeah. We talked about how the movie ends, which I thought was quite a nice moment.
Yeah.
when sorry, this is a weird thing to say, when she gets her period.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, that was just the peak. Rachel McAdams is the GOAT, and it was just like just to see how not excited she was for it, but like that sort of like a I'm ready, I got you kind of thing. And and then the realization that Margaret already has like pads and stuff.
Yeah, and I think for Margaret, the realization that her mom was like, oh, but this is like you know, this is happening to you, and she was like prepared for it, and that her mom was thinking about it as well. And it mirrors earlier on, her friend Nancy gets hers when Margaret and Nancy are out on the town, and Nancy's mom's very detached about it. She's very like, okay, just like do this, and you know, Nancy's crying. She doesn't really understand what's happening. She doesn't know what to do about it.
She deserves it for lying, though.
Poor Nancy.
No.
And this is when Margaret obviously gets very cross at her, because Nancy's lied to Margaret about already having her period. And so then you kind of have that lovely moment with Margaret and her mom, where it's another thing that kind of makes Margaret realize how she was so annoyed at her parents for not picking religion for her and not giving her a place in the world. Yeah. And then it's one of the many things at the end of the movie that make her really glad to have her parents and really appreciate that relationship.
Benny Safdie was nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen.
He's busy putting the trunk in the car for Cam.
He's not even cutting the grass. Moose is doing it.
Oh, he can't cut the grass.
He can't do anything. He can't even buy a new couch, Lili. No, that was meant to look after that woman.
Was Rachel McAdams' job, Gary. Was to buy a couch.
He was all comfortable on that like fucking sun lounger thing. Didn't see him getting up to make shapes. Anyway, this is, like you joke, like this is not as like pre-prepared as you would think. This is just when I latch onto something, I'm just ready to go.
When something, you know, when you just can't fight that hatred. You are Margaret in this moment.
Yes, I'm a little girl.
It's all built up,
and
you're just like, it's all built up. This pent up rage you have for Benny.
Why
Safdie.
did my parents never like choose a Safdie brother for me to like? You know what I mean? Why do I have to pick between the two?
And now you can't pick. Now you're gonna pick none of them in the end.
I'm just gonna rewatch that Star Wars he's in where he dies. Spoiler.
What Star Wars?
I think he is in an episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, I feel like he
it's
is.
either him or the other one. I don't know. But I'll pretend it's Benny. Oh, that's too much. It's too much even for me.
You're gonna have to issue a formal apology to him at the end of this.
No. He can request one.
Yeah, in the Q&A.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're Benny Safdie, if you're listening, request an apology, and in 3 to 5 business days, I'll get back to you via typewriter. And I'll use my monocle.
Oh, put on that monocle.
There you go.
Make reference to all these movies and address it to Dear God. Or what's the teacher's name? Mr. Benedict? That's how she addresses the letter at the end. So it's like, Dear Mr. Benedict Safdie.
Yes, I think so. Lili, anything else to add on this movie called Hey There God, It's Me and Mario? I mean, and Margaret. So
it goes quite well together.
I just, for some reason, I was trying to think to myself, how could I fit that into what?
I actually feel like someone's made that joke before.
On this podcast?
No.
Because I'll go back and delete that and just make this the original one.
Generally.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it featured in like a Simpsons episode or something.
Hey There God, It's Me and Mario. Anyway. But no, anything else?
No, I mean, it's amazing. I hope we did justice talking about it.
Maybe, I don't know.
We talked about it.
That's all that matters.
And I think everyone should go see it.
If not, like, look, I understand cinemas are expensive, and sometimes you only really want to go to the cinema when it's like a big blockbuster kind of thing, but like, this is worth it, but also, as soon as it hits streaming, get on it. Now, I don't think it'll be on any streaming service anyone has, because it'll probably be on Lionsgate Plus, which I shit you not is a real streaming service that I only found about the other day.
Don't talk bad about it, Gary. We want more.
Oh no, I did I say it was bad?
No,
I just said I only discovered it, and I can't believe I'm only discovering about it because it's got so many great movies, Lili, and for such an affordable price.
It's not available in Ireland.
It is.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh my god.
I think so. Let's do Gary Google something and let's find out what blood type Lionsgate has.
I'm trying to think of like, if you have ever seen anything. Yes. I was trying to think of like a good comparison to be like, if you like this, see this. Edge 17, Lady Bird, Little Women.
No, there was something else. Yes, I go.
I'm trying to think of an equivalent that is more about a little boy, but I can't. That can be your job.
Belfast.
Yeah,
not
kind of.
really, but like
it's very similar to Emma as well. So if you like a Jane Austen, you'll love this.
And if you like a hole in the head, you can also say
it's the same plot as Emma.
Stories about little boys growing up.
I thought you and I saw Good Boys. Do you remember that? But that was very much like little boys in Superbad.
But also that's kind of doing it what you had said before.
Playing it for laughs.
You playing for laughs, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. There isn't one almost identical to this. I don't think. If you like Rachel McAdams, Boyhood, yeah.
That I've never seen it. It's too fucking long. Edge of 17, not the one I was good. I just Leave It With Me. Moonlight, somewhat, actually, yeah, but that's...
Rye Lane is something I thought of as well.
Yeah, see, I'm trying to find
It
something
has
that's more
that
drama
that
comedy.
extensive narrative that Rye Lane has.
But yeah, no, there's definitely things.
Honestly, if you just like feeling nice, go see it. You can close your eyes at the end.
But yeah, absolutely.
If you've ever read a book, any book, maybe you should go see it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
If you ever heard of a religion, go see it.
Yeah, there's so many reasons why you should go see this, and and only one reason why you shouldn't. Sorry, that's the last one. I do promise. Like, you know, the comedy route of 3.
Yeah, you've gone for like 27.
I accidentally put another 0 at the end of that, I think. No, but Lili, thank you so much for coming on the podcast
Thank you for
again
having me.
and bringing this interesting story to the podcast listeners, which is this movie. I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm still workshopping that bit. I'm like, Lili's books.
Lili's League of
binges.
Literature.
Lili's League of Literature. Just feels like I'm going to talk about more books though.
Yeah, there's definitely something there. Leave it with me. I love alliteration. But no, thank you very much. And I want to thank the listener. Just the one listener.
It's me.
Hi, Betty Safety. I said I'd stop.
Just the one listener. It's David Scanlon.
It's David Scanlon. No, but thank you so much for listening to this or any of the other episodes. If you would like to keep up to date with the podcast, you can follow at Reading It Appears on Instagram. The clips go on TikTok. The full audio video goes on YouTube as well. Be sure to follow myself on Letterboxd as well as Miss Nolan, whose username is...
Lili Nolan.
There you go. Easy peasy. I also have the links in the description. If you'd also like to contact the podcast, you can email readingthepeers@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe and follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify or anywhere else you get your podcasts and give us some fantastic ratings there. And that's it. I never have something to end on.
My letterbox is Lili_Nolan.
There you go.